It's so exciting, so much women's football. And for me, I think it's been like quite hard to choose what I'm going to watch because obviously being an African, but at the same time, I played football in England and I've just grown to love how the football is played there. So it's just been tough, but at the same time, exciting. I'm really looking forward to watching all the players from England, but at the same time, already watching in CAF. So it's been amazing.
So it sounds like you're going to be glued to the TV for the entire tournament, switching between channels. Ella Wilson, you played for Scarborough Athletic. Tell me more about the Women's Euros. Is that a tournament you hope to play for in the future, representing England?
Oh God, I mean that would be a dream, yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, I only play for Scarborough at the minute. I only started playing at the back end of last year, so yeah, I'm just kind of playing for fun really at the minute. But it's something that I really love, and that would be amazing. But not anytime soon.
Let's look at how you both got into football. Jean Sseninde, take us through your journey in the women's professional game.
Yeah, I mean, I believe my journey was just a little bit different because I was in Africa, which is really different. When I moved into England, I saw young girls starting to play right from the age of 10 and even under 10s. When I was in Uganda, I didn't have those opportunities at all, even though I really love to play football. So I only started playing with my brothers in our compound at home. And when I went to primary school, because I was in a school which wasn't allowing women to play football, I never got the chance to actually play while in school. I only started playing when I got to secondary school. And for me, that's when I started playing competitive football. And at some point in my secondary, I got called to the national team. And that's when I got the opportunity to actually travel to England. And I had never traveled out of Uganda before. I had never left my family. So because this was an opportunity I had got, I had to think, should I take it? Should I stay? And I chose to be brave and take it. I traveled at the age of 17 to go to England. And that's when I started playing football. And
Jean, did you ever beat your brothers? Did they get used to losing to you?
you know what? At that time, they were beating me. But right now, because I went on to play at quite a higher level with the Uganda women's national team, now they are none better than me. So
Ella Wilson, listening to what Jean was saying about the difficulty she faced in primary school playing football, tell us about how it was like for you at school.
Well, obviously, growing up, my dad was a big fan of football, and he kind of pushed me towards doing that, and I kind of got involved with it when I was younger. I was about 6 or 7. I only played for a while, and then I didn't really like it actually. So I stopped doing that for a while, and then I kind of went back and forth with a bunch of different sports, and I always came back to football. And then my family my dad's quite into football, so he kind of kept pushing me to like sort of do that. And then I ended up last year I was looking to try and get involved with it, and it was quite hard to find a team quite close to me, like a small team for like a women's team. And then I found the Scarborough Athletic women's team, and it had only been formed not long ago, so we've not played in any leagues or anything. But it's really great to get involved with that sort of thing. And I've seen it like kind of grow, and more people are coming to it now, and it's really great to see more people around here kind of realize that there actually is something like that around here, and not just for younger girls. There's something for everyone.
Ella, when you tell people you're a footballer for Scarborough Athletic women's team, how do they react?
I think people are quite shocked actually, because I don't think they would like realize that I'm that sort of. I don't know, because when I was younger, I was more into like the music sort of thing. So I was playing piano and everything, and now I kind of like enjoy the sports side of it. And obviously, I love watching the games and everything. So I think it quite shocks people. I don't think they kind of expect it from me.
Jean Sseninde, the women's game has exactly the same rules as the men's game, exactly the same pitch. Are there any differences in how the game is played or not?
I don't think there are any differences with how the game is played, but I think everything else surrounding women's football, because men's football started way before women's football came around. I think there has been loads of cultural barriers put around, and everything that women have to do to catch up. When we talk about things like funding, there is a lot of inadequate funding. And when you compare the game, you talk about the low pay, we are nowhere close to what the men could have got. I mean, right now things are different, but when I was playing, we were barely getting anything at all. Of course, the limited facilities, we can talk about all those things that even though we are playing the same game, you find that the men have better facilities than what the women have. And of course, when I talk about Africa as well, we also have challenges of poor governance, where no one cares about women, social problems, and also women. When we talk about the biological issues where we go through menstruation, pregnancies, and our body changes. So we have to take some time, a while away from the game, which the men don't have to go through. And of course, the gender role responsibilities. I worked in South Sudan sometime with women's football, and some of the women were not allowed to come and play before they cooked food for their husbands, something which was really hard. And of course, men don't have to go through that.
Ella Wilson here in the UK. When I think of men's footballers, professional footballers in this country, I almost immediately think of the huge cars that they drive and the amount of money that they earn, and they're always in the newspapers. What's money like in the women's game in this country?
Well, obviously, I think the funding of the women's game is quite a bit less than the men's, which is it isn't really good to see that. And I've noticed like a lot of not like professional women's footballers, they have to like they are expected to take care of their children, and and a lot of them end up having to work two jobs because they can't afford to play football full time because they're not getting that sort of pay for that. So I think that kind of needs to improve.
One of the other issues here in the UK is that women's games have attracted fewer crowds in the stadiums than men's games. Men games in the highest level have, 50, 60,000 people, and sometimes in the women's game it's only a few thousand people. What are your thoughts about getting more people into stadiums, Ella?
I think the growing popularity of women's football will bring more people in. Like obviously the game tonight, it's at Old Trafford, which is the second largest stadium in the UK, and that's
Where
sold
Manchester
out.
United play their games.
Yeah, yeah, and that's sold out tonight. So I think it is improving.
Jean, if I can jump in and ask you, what was the biggest crowd you've ever played in front of?
Um, okay, I mean, in Uganda, it was different because people never used to pay to enter to watch our games. And you would sort of see like the field packed, but that's because maybe people had nothing to do and they just love to watch football. But when we count on people who would pay, maybe you could say like 200 during my days. Maybe on the national team was a little bit more. But yeah, it just wasn't a lot when you talk about men loving women's football, except if they had nothing to pay, really.
And when you see in some women's games in Barcelona tens and tens of thousands of people playing, does that make you think, well, that could be the women's game as a formula in the future, those huge numbers of crowds?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have seen strides when it comes to women's football. I think we have to be really patient and take it one step at a time, and also be as realistic as possible. Because, like we said, men have been doing this for a long time, and women, we've really just started catching up. But I think also men's teams having women franchises is also helping a lot, because when you see when the Man United women's team was introduced, it got a lot of fan base right from the start, because there are loads of fans already who are supporting Manchester United. So I think that's a good thing. And of course, when you talk about Barcelona, there is already a lot of support for the men's team. So it makes it easy for the fans to actually support the women's team as well. But also us as women putting on a very good show, and the women's team is playing very good football
Of
in Barcelona.
course,
So
yeah.
yeah, it makes it easy for the fans to be like, yeah, I have to watch this game because it's really entertaining. And that's what we have to keep fighting to do.
And when you both think of, let's say, a 10-year-old girl today who's interested in football but doesn't know the way forward, what would you suggest to her, Ella?
I think just obviously try and get involved, and keep going with it and keep pushing. And I think the fact that it is getting more popular now will help, like, kind of get rid of the stereotype that it's a men's game, and just keep pushing at it and try and just keep getting involved in everything. And yeah.
And Jean?
Yeah, I think it's important that we educate the parents the advantages that these young girls can gain out of playing football. We can use the TVs, the media telling the stories of these incredible women. I think when you see in the lead up to the Euros and in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, they have been putting in efforts to tell the stories of where these players came from. And parents are saying that it's actually a good thing if I support my child to play football. So it's important to put out these role models so that the young girls can dream and look up to them.
Some people are put off watching the men's game because of all the arguing with referees, because of the diving, because of the faking of injuries. How does the women's game compare?
Do you know what? I actually don't even watch men's football as much as I watch women's football, which is so funny. I feel I enjoy watching women's football and I just see them as completely different sports. So I think really it's just so absurd what us as women footballers have to go through to be able to get on the pitch, and then you see that the men have to argue with the referees and everything is just okay. They can keep their sponsors and no one will say anything. But I think us as women, we just have to hold our own. We have to work that little bit harder to prove that we are good enough. I think it's just better that we focus on growing our game, and yeah, the men can deal with their own later.